The story of the Star-Spangled Banner. The United States declared war on Great Britain on June 18, 1812. This was the official beginning of the War of 1812. The United States was angry with Great Britain because of the impressment of American men in the Atlantic Ocean. At the time, the British were also fighting against France and Napoleon, so they were actively involved in two wars at the same time. After defeating Napoleon, the British gave their full attention to the United States. One of the big events of the War of 1812 was the burning of Washington, D.C. James Madison was President of the United States at the time. He and his wife Dolly were the first couple to live in the White House. Before dinner on August 24, 1812, the British began their assault on Washington, D.C. A soldier was dispatched to the White House as Dolly was preparing for dinner. She was told she had to leave immediately and leave all the food on the table. As she left, she took the portrait of George Washington along with her. When the British made it into the White House, they helped themselves to Dolly's dinner, and then they set the White House on fire. In addition to the White House, the Capitol building was also destroyed. With Washington, D.C. destroyed, the British set their sights on the city 40 miles north, Baltimore. Baltimore was a large city at the time, and many of the soldiers needed days to walk to Baltimore. Dr. William Beans, a 64-year-old patriot and medical doctor, had two British soldiers captured and put into jail, but one of the prisoners escaped. When the soldier returned to his unit and explained what happened, the British sent soldiers to capture Dr. Beans, and they took him to jail on a British ship. Friends of Dr. Beans hired a lawyer to get Dr. Beans off the ship and out of jail. The lawyer who was hired was Francis Scott Key. Key, along with John Skinner, who was in charge of prisoners' exchange, sailed out to the British ship under the flag of truce to get Dr. Beans released from prison. Francis Scott Key boarded the British ship, and it was agreed that the British would release Dr. Beans, but not until the next morning. The British were afraid that Key might have heard plans about that evening's bombardment of Baltimore, so they detained Key as the Battle of Baltimore took place. That evening the battle commenced. As the bombs were bursting in the air and through the rockets' red glare, Key kept an eye on the flag that flew over Fort McHenry, which was built just outside of Baltimore to protect the cities from enemies. As long as he saw the flag, he knew Americans were still in control of the fort as well as the battle. Suddenly, the fighting stopped, and Key was not sure what happened. At the dawn's early light, Key saw the American flag still flying over the fort. He was so inspired that he took an envelope out of his pocket and scribbled a poem on it. He entitled the poem, "The Defense of Fort McHenry." As promised, Key and Beans were left off the ship the next morning, and on September 14, 1814, they sailed into the Baltimore harbor, where people were jubilant because they knew they just defeated the British. Key joined the festivities. As people celebrated, they sang. Key's poem was put to a popular song at the time, "To Answeron in Heaven," and this is how the melody was put to the poem. The people called the new song the Star-Spangled Banner. And at this time, the United States did not have an official national anthem. It was not until 1931 that President Herbert Hoover officially declared the Star-Spangled Banner as our national anthem.
O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still and the